Game of Thrones made us fall in love with this. But did you know that this was inspired by an actual place? And it's not in Europe. When you hear the word castle, you probably think of a medieval European city. Its massive stone walls, towers, and buildings are all that remain of a once great city. But the history behind them is even more fascinating. But what if I told you that Africa had its own majestic castles long before Europe had invented the toothbrush? Welcome to Great Zimbabwe, the medieval African city that inspired Game of Thrones. He also noted that the city was full of gold and other riches, which is why many historians believe that Great Zimbabwe was the legendary city of gold known as Ophir. You see, for a long time, it was believed that Great Zimbabwe couldn't have been built by Africans. After all, Africans were seen as a primitive people who were just living in the jungle, and surely they wouldn't have been capable of building such an advanced city. But recent discoveries have shown that this couldn't be further from the truth. They were known for their wealth and power, and they were feared by their enemies. For centuries, Great Zimbabwe remained in ruins until it was rediscovered in the 19th century. When it was rediscovered, it caused quite a stir among Europeans. Some people still claim that the Shona people couldn't have built such an impressive city and that there must have been some outside influence. But the truth is that the Shona people were highly skilled builders, and they didn't need any outside help to build Great Zimbabwe. They were able to create this impressive city all on their own. We can learn from the mistakes of the past and work to preserve these important sites for future generations. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more epic stories from around the world. You can also check out our other videos, which are just as awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. We owe it to the ancestors who built these amazing places to make sure that they were not lost forever. More than just a medieval marvel, it's a testament to human resilience, innovation, and the indomitable spirit of those who came before us. Just as the builders of Great Zimbabwe left their mark on history, we too can strive to leave a positive impact on the world. May their story inspire us to reach new heights and to build a better future for all. Many of them couldn't believe that such an advanced civilization could have existed in Africa, and as a result, many of them tried to claim that Great Zimbabwe was actually built by Europeans or by some mysterious people from the Middle East. However, there's no evidence to support either of these claims. And the truth is that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Shona people, a native African tribe. But despite their power, the Shangara were eventually defeated by the Portuguese in the late 15th century. They created a fake story about how the ruins were actually the biblical city of Jerusalem. They even went so far as to plant fake artifacts in the ruins to support their claim. But Great Zimbabwe is just as impressive as any of the ancient Egyptian pyramids, and it deserves to be just as famous. It is a testament to the ingenuity and hard work of the Shona people, and it is a reminder of just how advanced African civilizations were. Fortunately, the truth eventually came out, and today we know that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Shona people. But Great Zimbabwe is just one example of how this couldn't be further from the truth. There are many other ancient sites in Africa that prove that Africa was once home to some of the most advanced civilizations in the world. The Portuguese were able to defeat the Shangara because they had access to advanced European technology, such as guns and steel armor. The Shangara, on the other hand, didn't have access to this kind of technology. They were still using bows and arrows and spears, and their armor was made out of leather and wood. Great Zimbabwe is located in the south of Zimbabwe near the modern city of Masvingo. Most people don't know much about Great Zimbabwe, but it might ring a bell when I tell you that it was described by the Portuguese as the eighth wonder of the world. They used advanced techniques to build their walls and towers, and they decorated them with intricate carvings and symbols. They claimed that there must have been some European influence or that the city was actually built by some mysterious people who came from the Middle East. But there's no evidence to support either of these claims. In fact, the only evidence we have suggests that Great Zimbabwe was built by a local African people known as the Shangara. And contrary to popular belief, they didn't use any mortar to hold the stones together. Instead, they used a technique called dry stone masonry, which involves fitting the stones together without any mortar. It's a very difficult technique to master, but the builders of Great Zimbabwe clearly knew what they were doing. Built entirely out of granite without any mortar, the walls are up to 36 feet high and 12 feet thick at their base. They surround a massive courtyard and are decorated with intricate carvings of birds, animals, and other symbols. The city's most iconic feature is its massive conical tower, which rises 82 feet into the air. It's unclear exactly how the tower was built or what it was used for, but it is believed to have been used as a royal residence or a symbol of the kingdom's power. The entire complex covers an area of over 1,700 acres, making it one of the largest ancient cities in Africa. But how could such an advanced civilization have sprung up in Africa before Europe had invented the toothbrush? Well, it all started with a small village. As early as the 11th century, there was a small village on the site of Great Zimbabwe. The village was inhabited by the ancestors of the Shona, people who were farmers and traders. But in the 13th century, the village was abandoned and a new settlement began to grow in its place. This new settlement was unlike anything that had come before it. It was a true city, complete with massive stone walls, towers, and other structures. And it was home to a thriving community of merchants, artisans, and farmers. In fact, the city was so impressive that when the Portuguese explorer Dom Garcia de Paine arrived in the 15th century, he described it as the eighth wonder of the world. So who built Great Zimbabwe, and how did they do it? Well, that's where things get interesting. Archaeologists have found evidence that the builders of Great Zimbabwe were highly skilled engineers and architects. But even with all of this evidence, some people still refuse to believe that Africans could have built such an impressive city. The Shangara were a powerful and wealthy kingdom that controlled much of southern Africa in the 14th and 15th centuries. After the Shangara were defeated, their kingdom fell apart and Great Zimbabwe was abandoned. To make matters worse, the British colonial government tried to cover up the true origins of Great Zimbabwe. However, not everyone is happy with this discovery. Sadly, many people still don't know much about Great Zimbabwe. It's often overshadowed by other ancient African sites like the pyramids of Egypt. For centuries, Europeans had believed that Africa was a primitive continent with no real history. Sadly, many of these sites are in ruins today, but they don't have to stay that way. We hope you enjoyed learning about Great Zimbabwe, the medieval African city that inspired Game of Thrones. As we end this journey through time, let's take a moment to appreciate the legacy of Great Zimbabwe.